Hello, Kipsters. Hope you guys had a safe weekend. I hope you all enjoyed the holiday celebration, and I hope you are all ready to finish out these last few weeks together on our very first attempt at virtual learning. You guys have been great so far. I've really enjoyed making these videos for you all. I'm happy to see those of you who do participate, you're understanding the content. Even when I'm not in the room with you, it is very inspiring to continue to help me make these videos better and make them more engaging for you as we go along. Okay, today is our very first day of making or taking recorder lessons through a screen. So of course, to do these lessons, you will need a recorder, and I just want to talk about that for a second. A lot of you hopefully went to the trunk or treat event that we had on October 30th, and if you did go to that event, you received or hopefully received a recorder for the fourth and fifth grade class. If you did not, I will hopefully be getting that to you. I have spoken to your parents at this point in time, hopefully, and we have arranged to meet up and I hand deliver you your recorder if you have not received it yet. If you have not received it and I've not even spoke to your parent about that, then please feel free to have your parent reach out to me on Class Dojo. I have been posting on there with my phone number as well. So if you need a recorder and you have not gotten one yet, please look on Class Dojo, find my phone number, send me a text, and I will do my very best to get a recorder in the hands of you or your student if you are a parent watching this right now. Otherwise, all of you should have your recorder in your hand, and we will begin doing lessons with these. Now, I might go back a little bit and redo some lessons with you all because now that we have the recorder in our hands, it will be a little bit easier for us to kind of get an idea of what we were talking about during those videos during those recorder basic videos. But for now, we're just going to continue as if we never watched or as if we are just starting now. This is a brand new lesson. Again, I might show those lessons again just for a future reference, but for now, we're going to start fresh with this. So I wanted to start off with this slide here, and we're going to talk about some musical notes, B, A, and G. Now, when we learned notes in a few weeks ago, we were learning notes with our Nearpods, and we learned the notes B, A, and G, and maybe we don't necessarily remember where they are right now, but we can recall every good boy deserves fudge, face equals spaces, so F-A in the second space, and then every good, B-A-G, second line, every good boy deserves fudge. We are not going to really work on identifying that as much right now. I'm just trying to give you a little idea that we will work with these specific notes, B, A, and G during this lesson, and I'll show you how to play those very soon here. Okay, so a couple tips about the recorder. Make sure you hold it tightly. As we talked about in the last video, left hand is on top, so it's kind of reverse. It's kind of backwards in the video, of course, but your left hand, the one that makes an L in front of you when you look at it in your face, that's the one that's going to be playing on top, and your right hand on bottom. Usually you have two hands on it so that you don't drop it. Please be careful with these instruments because when we come back to in person, I do want to play them together. So I don't want to have you to buy a new one. At this point, if you need a recorder and you don't take the one that was given to you or donated to you for free, then you will most likely have to buy your own recorder or share with someone, which is something we don't want during this time because now that I've had them donated to you, I'm making it a requirement to have for music class. Okay, so again, we're starting with the lesson. Hopefully you're following along in the Nearpod. If you are ready to go ahead and click next and follow along with me. You don't have to watch, you don't have to read this slide, so go ahead and click next again. All right, and again, this is just a couple ideas on how to make us a little bit better if we needed the extra time. For now, we're not going to worry about it, so go ahead and click next again. All right, essential question. The question we're focusing on today during our lesson, what are the first notes I will play on the recorder? Now, I'm sure a lot of you have already put the instrument to your mouth and you've played it, you've practiced it a little bit, you've tried to figure out how to make a sound, and you may have already found that it's very easy to do so. Really, all you have to do is put your mouth to it and blow a little wind, and a sound will come out. So when you're playing it, Make sure you're not overdoing it because it is a very annoying sound at times when you do it too loudly. So please make sure when you play, you're playing respectfully, you are taking care of the instrument, and you're doing your best to make sure that this instrument will not get lost while we are at home. Okay, moving on to the next slide, we're going to learn about the first notes we will play today. All right. Today, your objectives: the students will review correct posture and handling of the recorder, demonstrate correct fingering for notes B, A, and G, and demonstrate the correct pacing and note reading for notes B, A, and G. Now, we might not get through that today for this lesson, but that is an overview of what we will try to get through during this week, I suppose. Let's get started. So you should be on the next slide, and you should be on the slide that says let's get started. If you're not, go ahead and take your time to catch up. If you are, go ahead and click next. Open-ended question here. What do you think will be the hardest part to learning how to play the recorder? All right, now I don't know what the hardest part for you will be, but I think the hardest part to learning how to play the recorder will be knowing how much air to blow into the instrument. That is going to be the hardest thing, I think. For me, fingerings is easy. I play clarinet. A lot of the same notes that you play on recorder is the same fingers you use for clarinet. But the wind, the amount of air you use to put in the instrument is a lot different. So for me, I have to really figure out how to use less air, even me, so that I can play my instrument a little bit better. So if I play with the same air I would play with a clarinet, it would sound a little bit like this. And it's just a little too loud. And I wasn't even using that much air. But now that I know I'm playing a recorder, I have to think about it. This is a small instrument. I use small air. Okay? Very small air here, guys. You are small people. That doesn't mean you blow more air just because you're smaller. You blow as small air as you can, and I promise you a sound will come out. Make sure your parents do not get annoyed because they may very well. All right. Before you learn to play the recorder, you'll need to relearn some music-related vocabulary. All right, so we're going to do a little bit of review here. Actually, this is not review. This is a new concept, something we won't use today, but this is what we like to call a measure. Now, in music, we read notes measure by measure. All right, and in each measure, there are maybe say 4 beats in a measure. Again, not something we're going to be doing today, but when we actually start reading music, when I challenge you to read music with the recorder in your hand, I will kind of dive a little bit deeper into what a measure is, and we'll practice really precisely on specific measures at times. All right, so again, measure definition here on the second slide: space between 2 vertical bar lines on a staff made of beats and rhythms. All right, space between 2 vertical lines. So if you see right here on these squiggly lines on the bottom, those are staff lines. You see there's 5 lines. Every good boy deserves fudge. Those are staff lines. And sometimes on those staff lines, you'll see vertical lines, lines that are straight up and down, that cut the staff into measures. All right, so that you know this is measure 1, this is measure 2, this is measure 3, and at the end of the song, you end up with measure 50. Okay, so just an idea of what a measure is. It just kind of like signifies where you are in the music. Note. We know a lot about notes, guys. A sign used in musical notation to represent duration and pitch of a sound. So when we're talking about notes, we're not talking about the note names like A, B, C, D, E, F, G. We're talking about the notation, the actual note themselves, like quarter notes, half notes, eighth notes, whole notes, dotted eighth note, rest, different kinds of notation that helps us know how long and what note we play for that specific note written. And rest, something we may not have learned yet. If you weren't at KIP last year, if you didn't take music last year, you didn't learn it from me. But rest means in the music, there is a moment of silence, which we all love. We all love very deeply silence at times. And so in music, we obviously have moments of silence, moments where nothing is happening, no sound occurs. That is what we call a rest in music. And as you can see here, the definition: a musical symbol that marks the absence of a note. They are measured in length like notes. So what they mean by that is there are quarter notes. There are quarter rests, sorry. There are half rest. There are whole rests. There are eighth rests. There are 16th rests. There are all kinds of rest. And all these rests signify how long that silence is going to happen. All right. As we get closer to reading music, we will talk about that specifically and you'll see it more. But for now, just to give you a little refresher of what those notes and words are. And of course, staff, as I mentioned earlier, is a set of 5 horizontal lines and 4 spaces that each represent a note or musical pitch. So 5, you can remember, every good boy does fine. 5, each note has each finger has a letter, and each letter represents one of those 5 horizontal lines. And then face equals space. 4 spaces, FACE. 4 spaces. It's just telling you that a staff is made up of 5 lines and 4 spaces. That is what a staff is. Okay. Moving on. Time to show what you know. Okay, so I might have skipped a couple there, but we should be on the slide that says fill in the blanks. All right. Hopefully we get to playing today. If not, that is okay. We'll get to it tomorrow. But we are just making sure we get this terminology down before we begin. So the first one says, a sign used in musical notation to represent duration and pitch of a sound. A sign used in musical notation to represent duration and pitch of a sound. The second one, a set of 5 horizontal lines and 4 spaces that each represent a note or musical pitch. Third one, a musical symbol that marks the absence of a note. They are measured in length like notes. Space between 2 vertical bar lines on a staff made of beats and rhythms. All right. Let's go ahead and try the second one because I think the second one's the easiest one to start with. We don't always have to start on the top. A set of 5 horizontal lines and 4 spaces that each represent a note or musical pitch. I think we just talked about that, and when we said 5 musical lines, every good boy does fine, face equals space. We know that we are talking about a staff here. All right, a set of 5 horizontal lines, 4 spaces that each represent a note, a staff. Okay, this specific thing, this staff, we need to make sure we understand that that's what we're talking about. When we see 5 lines and 4 spaces, we know, oh, that's a musical staff. All right, we don't any longer think, oh, that's just 5 random lines. All right, we know it's a musical staff. The second one, let's do the third one. A musical symbol that marks the absence of a note. So if the sound is absent, it means it's not there. It means it's silent. And we just talked about what silence is in music. We call it a rest. All right, now we have 2 left. Let's see the first one. A sign used in musical notation to represent duration and pitch of a sound. Measure. I don't think that makes sense. Let's look at the fourth one. Space between 2 vertical bar lines on a staff made of beat and rhythms. Yes, so we talked about measure earlier. We said that measures are in the staff and that they are broken up in between 2 vertical lines. So the staff lines are horizontal. That means vertical lines are going through them straight up and down. And that leaves us one note or one tab left, which is the word notes. And note is defined as a sign used in musical notation to represent duration and pitch of a sound. Once you have all 4 of those filled in, go ahead and click done. You get a nice 4 out of 4, and we move on to the next one. All right, we're going to watch a video here, and this video is just going to show you a little bit, just going to give you someone else's perspective on how to play the recorder, and I'm going to watch the video with you. Obviously, I will be teaching you all as well once we're starting to get more comfortable with the instrument, but we're going to see what this person has to say about playing the recorder as well.
Hey everyone, just a little bit about recorders today. So, first thing is first, we start with our left hand.
You guys can go ahead and follow along like me.
So, which one is our left? Some of us know this automatically, some of this it takes a while to learn. If you write with your right hand, the recorder can be really confusing. So we have to start with our left hand because that is what goes on the top of the recorder, which is what we're starting with. So I'm going to show you my left hand here. Now my left hand looks like I'm raising my right hand on the video right now. This is my left hand. If I make this shape with my thumb and forefinger, it looks like an L to me. It looks backwards to you. If I do this, it looks correct to you, but it looks backwards to me. Okay? The important thing is, does it look right for me? Okay? So I need to use this hand because this is correct for me. That's my left hand. L for left. Okay? So even though it looks backwards on the screen, I'm using my left hand all the time. So I'm going to put my recorder into my left hand. I want to make sure that my thumb completely covers that back hole there.
Completely,
make
guys.
Sure that thing is completely
completely
sealed.
covered.
In fact, I'm going to push my thumb in and show you the circle. I don't know how
push
well
your
that
thumb
shows
in.
up, but you can kind of see a circle.
You should be able to see a circle on the tip of my thumb. You see that?
That's where it needs to go.
It needs
Not
to be
on the tip,
fully
because
covered.
then it will squeak. Same thing with the finger. I'm going to lay my first finger over the first hole with the thumb pad. I'm sorry, with the finger pad, thumb pad and finger pad around that circle. And then I'm going to blow really gently.
Try it.
Okay? What's my right hand doing during all this? It's holding the bottom of the recorder. Notice my fingers are away from the holes so that I don't get the wrong notes. That way, when I'm blowing softly, my fingers are out of the way in the right hand, but my left hand can feel where those holes are. You should feel the complete circle underneath your finger pads. If you play piano, you might be tempted to curve your fingers, but you usually get squeaks when that happens. See? So, use your finger pads, and you'll get nice sounds. Now, we always have one finger, this finger, for B. Remember, B is the middle line of the staff.
B,
all of
one
this is
finger.
in the recorder karate book.
B, one finger.
A is the second space.
A, two fingers.
And G is the second line.
G, three fingers.
Remember from this, every good boy does fine, or whichever other story you like. Okay? So I'm going to use this and blow hot cross buns. When I do that, I am also using my tongue. When I use my tongue, I'm stopping the air for just a moment inside my mouth. You can do this too. You do it all the time. Anytime you say a word with D, that's exactly what you're doing. Okay? Whether you say dog or dead or dilemma, anything that has a D in it, that's exactly what your tongue is doing. You just need to apply it to the recorder. So, instead of saying do, you're going to use the D part of it, and the rest of it is silent. I'm just saying D over and over again, okay? I'm just not using my voice, because if I use my voice, I get a weird sound, which is interesting, but not good for playing. So, fingers important.
Okay. I'm going to pause it there, move on to the next slide. And let's see. Yeah. We might just slow it down. We'll slow it down. We'll kind of go through this real quick. But we learned a little bit about how to hold the instrument. And I think that might be how we leave this lesson off. But we got to play a little bit. We played along with the man who was on the video. And we learned that when we play this instrument, we have our left hand on top, which is what we learned last week. We have our left hand on top. That makes sure that it's confusing if you're a right-handed person. I understand that. I have taught this before, and I've seen it happen. You want to use your right hand on top because that's your main hand. But I promise you, left hand on top is the way to do it. It is the only way. There is no alternative to this. Okay, left hand on top. So when you look at your hand and you see an L, that means your left hand. It looks like a right hand to me, but for me over here, it's my left one. Remember that, just as he said in the video. Okay, when you are playing these notes, go ahead and practice this. We're not going to play much more today, but go ahead and practice just holding your finger on the hole. So you see that when I make a hole, look at my camera down here. I'll even make it bigger for you. When I press it, you can see that I have an indentation, not on the tip of my thumb, not on the bottom, but right in the middle there. Okay, that means that I'm fully covering that hole. I can see the whole circle. Even for the top fingers, you want to kind of squeeze a little bit harder just to make sure that your finger is covering that entire hole. All right, and that is how you play. You don't want to squeeze it too hard when you're actually playing, but you want to make sure that your finger is covering that entire hole. Otherwise, it will squeak. So watch this. This is when I'm covering it the whole way. And then this is when I'm just not even covered, just a little bit off. This is what it sounds like. It might not sound like a squeak, but it doesn't sound right. This is right. This is just a little bit not covering it. Not the same notes at all, even. All right. And that might be more of an advanced technique, but right now it is not correct. So make sure your entire finger holes or finger pad is covering that hole so that you can get the best possible sounding note. Other than that, when you are playing and practicing this next day, just make sure you're using your tongue. So that guy was saying to pretend that you're saying the letter D. So when you're playing a note, pretend you're saying the letter D when you play it as well. And that is how you tongue. Remember, we talked about tonguing is just a small separation of the airflow, which makes it sound like the note has a beginning. Okay, so tonguing, making sure that we're tonguing when we play, making sure that the entire hole is covered, making sure our right hand is the one that's holding the instrument on the bottom, and making sure that we are using very soft air when we play this instrument. Okay, we will continue on with this lesson after hopefully, I believe tomorrow is Tuesday. If we will continue on with this lesson afterwards, whatever it is, the next lesson we will begin to start learning the actual notes and the name of the notes when you hold your fingers down. As always, Mr. Isaac wants to say 3 things to you. You are kind, you are smart, you are important. I hope to see you all very, very soon. Stay warm out there. Until I see you again, have an awesome day, you guys, and I will talk to you soon.